And yes, good morning to you once again. It's Tuesday, the 24th of February, 2026. The program is On the Lord's Side, Christian Perspectives on News and Current Events. My name is Olufemi Oguntokun. You can follow me on X at Olufemi OG. You can follow GospelBellsRadio on X at GospelBellsRadio. I want to begin this morning by sharing with you, obviously, the audio from a video clip that should make us think even more deeply and circumspectly about, well, the nature of the human heart and what the Bible and God was telling us, was inviting us to fully understand when He said to us that looking into an unregenerated heart, you will find evil and evil continually. And it's so important because we live in an age where people wake up and make accusations here and there. And the person who posted this video on X said, quote, "I used to be one of those who believed that a woman couldn't possibly lie about being raped until I watched this video. This video broke me. A wife came out and lied against her husband, claiming he raped not one, not two, but his 3 daughters. The daughters were retelling the story like they actually lived through it. This video made me understand the saying, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Ever since then, I've held on to the belief that everyone is innocent until proven guilty." I want you to listen to the audio clip from this. I'm looking at this video. There is someone here who is like a presenter, the husband seated to the left of this presenter, the wife to the right, and the 3 daughters sitting behind the woman.
Today we're going to clean up the infection. We're going to tell the truth. Mr. Monzel, in your lie detector test, you were asked, did you have any sexual contact with any of your 3 daughters? You said no. And the lie detector said there was no deception.
Yes, thank God.
How does that feel for you? And that your daughters know it.
Well, I felt they always did know it.
You felt they always did know it.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't speak it because?
They didn't know no better. They wasn't told no different.
Okay, I'm going to continue playing this. I just want to carry you along as well as possible. So in the first segment there, the presenter, obviously there had been issues before now where the wife had accused the husband of raping his 3 daughters, and because of obviously the drama that ensued from that and the bitterness, they took a lie detector test. And here we have a revelation of the result of the lie detection test. The woman, the presenter, first announced to the man saying, well, you were accused of these things. You have taken the lie detection test, and the lie detection test has said, look, you said the truth, that you were not you did not lie. And the woman asked him, well, how do you feel? Well, he said, maybe relief. And he said, your daughters have also corroborated that they were not raped. The man said, well, they always knew that they were not raped, but why did they lie? Now let us listen to the presenter confronting the woman. Her name Yvonne, 53.
Miss Yvonne took a lie detector test and said, did you make up or exaggerate any stories with the intention to harm Monzel? She responded no, and the answer was deceptive.
So the lie detector said the woman was deceptive.
He asked you, did you say something to the effect of, I'm going to make sure you're never happy again? She responded no, and the answer was deceptive. So Miss Yvonne has acknowledged that her story about you touching your children in a sexual way was not true.
Can you imagine that?
So, Miss Yvonne, is there anything that you wanted to say to Mr. Monzel?
Why didn't you fight for him harder if you knew you
Excuse
didn't
me?
do it?
And what is it that he could have said that would have made you not believe the lie you were telling? Miss Yvonne, you told the lie. It was a lie, and you told it. And you gotta own it.
I'm sorry. I need you to say that you did not rape your girls. I need to hear it come out your mouth the way I...
So the person you are there is the daughter speaking obviously out of turn and confronting the mother and saying that we need to hear it from you that the man did not rape them, and obviously the daughters themselves, clearly affected by this.
I've always heard in my...
I apologize for accusing you of raping them. Please forgive me.
Can you imagine that the woman confronted with her lies, and with one of the daughters also speaking up and saying, "Look, mommy, you need to apologize. You need to own it that you lied." And then there she eventually said, "Okay, I lied. I'm sorry."
You don't have to forgive her. You don't have to.
And in this video, you can see the man obviously shaking, obviously
I cannot
moved by
accept
this.
your apology.
"I cannot accept your apology," he said.
Because it's not sincere. Deep down, I know that you didn't believe that. You knew I had no sexual desires for my children. For 25 years, this thing has broken me. You don't know. It has affected my life in ways I can't even count. The things that you did. This is not no game. This is these children's lives. And it's just a demon in you that you need to deal with.
Wow, and that was a clip from a show in Yanla, Fix My Life, where this presenter tries to bring together families that have been divided by horrible emotional issues and tries to resolve it. And that's what she did here. Got this family and got the man to take a lie detector test, and the woman as well, and then revealed the result on air. And the woman, confronted with her lies, eventually apologized so perfunctorily, in my own view, and the man reacted so emotionally and unexpectedly so. And this is important for us to reflect on as people on the Lord's side. The truth, the reality that in the fallen world we live in, people lie. Of recent, I've come to understand certain things, even among God's people, how it is possible for people to just sit back and to concoct lies and then to begin to spread them. And it is, one needs no, I do not think anybody on the Lord's side needs to be told that that is a horrible thing to do. Apart from the fact that we know that it is part of of our Lord's command, "Thou shalt not spread false information about your neighbor," which is usually rendered as "thou shalt not lie." We know that it's something that is detestable to God, but beyond that, it speaks to a horrible heart, a degenerated heart, an evil heart, that you would sit back and then concoct lies and publish it about anyone. In fact, a Christian cannot even afford to lie about his enemy. You cannot do that about your own enemy, even the person you do not like, or even the person who does not like you. Let's even assume that as a good Christian, you make it your point as much as possible to live at peace with everyone, to like everybody. But notwithstanding that, even if you are one who likes people, who makes it his point, or makes the point to love other people, you still find that there are so many people who do not like you. Even for those who don't like you, those who qualify to be called your enemies, you dare not lie against them. You cannot do that. It's against the rules of the kingdom. In the rules of the kingdom, it says you do not hate your enemies. You, in fact, pray for them. But you see, you can say, okay, even for one thing, maybe the person is your enemy, the person is looking for your downfall, and then you decided to lie against that person. But may say, oh, that might even be understandable. It's not acceptable, but it might even be understandable. But you find people even lying against fellow Christians in the same church, in the same community, and in this video, someone lying against the husband. And we know that marriages can be fraught with all sorts of issues, and there are many cases where you find spouses who have become bitter, people who have become bitter towards their own spouses because something has happened. Sometimes it's not even a marriage relationship, maybe in a romantic relationship. Some people have become so bitter towards the other party, and then they take it to yet another level, and they concoct lies against another person. From Proverbs 6, you find what is detestable to God, and you find that lying is one of those things that is actually detestable to God. In Proverbs 6, from 16 to 19, it says, these behaviors violate the nature of God, and they constitute the things that God hates. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. Can we list them? Haughty and proud eyes, a lying tongue, the heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, a person who stirs up conflict in the community. And you're going to find that out of these 7, 6 of them relate to lying. Because for a person who is going to tell a lie, the second one says a lying tongue, and then you have another that says a heart that devises wicked schemes. And as we know from the teachings of Jesus Christ, before the tongue would lie, the heart must have devised the scheme. Before the tongue would lie, the heart must have devised the scheme. And the lying tongue is detestable to God. The heart that devises wicked schemes is detestable to God. The feet quick to rush into evil is detestable to God. And because a person who lies, more often than not, would also have feet that are quick to rush into evil, because the person has to spread the lie. And then you have a false witness who pours out lies. That's about lying again. And a person who stirs up conflict in the community. And anybody who is lying must know the consequence of lying. It is to stir up conflict in the community. And when a person has devised the wicked scheme of lying in his heart, and then he tells the lies by his tongue, what he wants to do next is to quickly spread the lie, and that's the quick that is quick to rush to evil. And following that, what comes next? Then the person stirs up conflict in the community. I'm just trying to buttress how detestable and destructive lying is, and how human beings are quick to lie, and why for us on the Lord's side we must never, it should never be named among us. This will qualify as one of those things that when Paul said, look, this thing should never be named, among, but unfortunately it is named even among Christians. In our personal relationships, you find the husband lying against the wife against the husband, just because people want to get back at the other person. You find it in Christian communities, in Christian churches, just because we want to get back at the other person. Lying is detestable, and sometimes videos like this, occurrences like this, bring home to us again the reality of lies, among human beings in general. And that is why only the person who is not wise will immediately listen to one side of a story and run with it. And sometimes it becomes even more dangerous when even when you have listened to the other side, you are not convinced by the side of the person telling the truth. Because the truth is not often obvious. It's not always obvious, rather. The truth is not always obvious. Most times, the truth becomes obvious once you listen to the other side. Once you listen to the person accused, you may be able to justify his own actions or to prove the lie. But sometimes it's not that easy. Like the case of this man who was accused of having sexual relationships with his 3 daughters, accused by his own wife. And that is sad. Very, very, very sad. But the Bible teaches that lying is part of our fallen, sinful nature. So we must know that. that lying is part of our fallen and sinful nature. And that is why if anybody is asked to substantiate his claims, the person should readily do so. Nobody should take offense when he or she is asked to substantiate his claims. And people who are wise, Christians who are wise, should ask people who make accusations to substantiate their claims. If anybody comes to you and says, look, this person has done this, ask the person to substantiate it. Or you ask the person to say, okay, can I call the other person? And you should give the other person, the person who has been accused, the benefit of the doubt. Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Who can understand it? So, as people on the Lord's side, because at the end of the day, when the lie is eventually proven, and lies are eventually exposed in this world, and if not in this world, in the world to come, if you have rushed to believe a lie, if you have acted on a lie, then you look so foolish to yourself, because you did not take time to investigate the matter. You just rushed to judgment. And I really feel for this man. I feel for this man who was accused by his wife of raping his 3 daughters. The Bible contains guidance for us in matters like this. Deuteronomy 19:15. One witness is not enough to convict anyone accused of any crime or offense that they have committed. A matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. You want to say, well, if we have no witnesses, if you are the only one who witnessed the matter, we're not going to act on it because there's no proof. And Proverbs 18:17 reminds us, in a lawsuit, the first to speak seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines. And I love the Bible. It's so beautiful and so true and so right. And those of us who are lawyers, we know these things. It is easy for you to stand up and plead your case before a judge, well, until you are called to the witness box and cross-examined. It is during cross-examination that most cases fall apart, especially cases built on lies. And that's why it's important for us, because these are wisdom nuggets to do this thing. In 1 Timothy 5 as well, Paul wrote to Timothy saying, do not entertain an accusation against an elder unless it is brought by 2 or 3 witnesses. You want witnesses to step forward. You want to cross-examine them. Why would Paul write to Timothy, that young pastor? Why would he write to him saying, do not entertain an accusation against an elder unless it is brought by 2 or 3 witnesses? Because Paul knew that people lie. And unfortunately, Christians also lie. Or rather, people who are in the church, they also lie. And that explains that age-old principle of criminal law, of that age principle of common law. A man is to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. A man talking about a man or a woman should be presumed innocent until proven guilty. I really feel for that man, and perhaps, not even perhaps, from what he said, he must have lost opportunities, must have lost friends. And those friends who deserted him because his wife accused him of raping his daughters must feel quite foolish now that the lie has been exposed. And I do pray that you will never be in that situation where you then become embarrassed because you rushed to judgment. You become embarrassed because you believed an accusation without taking time to investigate it, or without subjecting the person making the accusation to the strictest possible proof. And that's what you always do. Because in a fallen world, people lie. And those of us on the Lord's side, as I said earlier on, must remember that lying is one of those sins most detestable to God. And why is that? Because, well, lying is the modus operandi of the devil. That's what Jesus said, that those who lie, they belong to their father, the devil, because he's a liar. He has always been a liar from the beginning, and the father of lies. Jesus said to liars that he came across in his own day, you belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. So the liar is the offspring of Satan. Jesus said when Satan lies, he speaks his native language. That is his MO. That is his nature. It is his nature to lie. We, one another, must be reminded that, look, it is the nature of the devil to lie. And when we give ourselves to lying, we are behaving like his offspring. We are not his offspring. We should not be in the company of those who lie. And many people lie because, especially against people who have hurt them, because they just want to revenge. Which is why the Lord said, look, do not avenge. I will revenge. The one who I said I will avenge you is faithful. And it gives him glory that even when people lie against you, you do not repay them by lying. Let us pray that everyone who perhaps is being punished or suffering some disadvantage or another because of lies told against him or her, that the Lord will expose such lies in the name of Jesus and bring to shame and ridicule those who concocted the lies in the name of Jesus, and that advantages that have been lost, opportunities that have been lost because of lies told against us will be restored to us in the name of Jesus, and that the Lord will continue to transform our hearts, so much so that none of us will give himself or ourselves to lying, even against people who have hurt us. It is detestable to God. It is an evil before the Lord, and it is a sin against God and against fellow human beings. Okay, and next I want to share with you an account given by a lady who claimed that the events actually happened, that eventually happened to her, and I want you to listen to it. This is a light-hearted, in my own view, this is a light-hearted account, a light-hearted story, but I want you to listen to it, and then let's see what lessons we can draw from this, from a Christian perspective. This lady claimed that she went to a restaurant, and at the restaurant, some persons paid for a meal, and then something happened afterwards. I wanted to listen to this as told by the lady herself.
We went to this one restaurant in Ikoyi by the water. Very demure, very nice, very cutesy. So we ordered our food, we're chilling, we're vibing to the music. It's like off-peak season, so I've never been to Nigeria during like December or anything like that. But it's off-peak season, but it's a nice restaurant, so it's very busy. And it was a weekday that we went as well. So we're calling, we're chilling. My mum has a driver for us because she just doesn't trust two fine babes. We're there for Lagos. We're there for Lagos by ourselves. So she got us a chaperone. The driver's in the parking lot, tells us he's there. So we now say, okay, cool, let's go, let's take our pictures and let's go. So we told the waiter, please can you bring the bill? She now comes back, she says, oh, those gentlemen over there have already paid for your tab. We said, oh, okay, cool. So we looked at them, we nodded, thank you. So we now chill for like maybe a couple more minutes, and then we get out to go and take our pictures. Like we take pictures. It was like an indoor-outdoor space, so that where it was outdoors, you had more of a view. So we went there to go and take some pictures. And then the waitress now comes up to us, like maybe we had probably been taking pictures for like 10 minutes at this point. Waitress now comes up to us and she said, yeah, they said since you're not coming to their table that you should pay for your Men are so funny. They want to weaponize their provision, but the provision that you're providing is a £30 bill. You have to forget, person when they come there spending in pounds. We're coming there spending in pounds. Don't ever try to act like Mr. Money with the vibes right now. Big Daddy with the vibes right now. We're not broke. We can pay that tab. We didn't even look over to them. We just said, yeah, bring that stuff. We just carried on taking our pictures. She came, we tap our card, we go. Like it's...
Okay, I do hope you got the gist of that account there because of the way the lady told the story. If you did not get it, I'm going to relate it to you. Basically, this lady, obviously a Nigerian, but not a resident in Nigeria, that she and her friend came into the country, and that the friend's mother, got them a driver and a chaperone to help them get around town. And that they went into a fancy restaurant, upscale restaurant in Ikoyi, in Lagos State, and that they sat down to a meal, that they did enjoy the meal. She said beautiful things about the restaurant, but that after finishing the meal, they asked for their bill, as is typically done. And then the waiter said to them, "Oh, don't worry, the gentleman over there," pointing to another table, "and the rest of the gentleman over there, they've paid for your bill." And that they were glad and naturally, I suppose, impressed, and that they looked at the table and they nodded at the men in appreciation or in acknowledgement of their kindness, and that was it. And then they stayed back and took pictures, as many ladies would do nowadays when they visit beautiful places, and they stayed around, took some pictures, and then again that the place had an outdoor overflow as well. They went outdoors and took some pictures, and that they spent about 10 minutes doing that. And that as they made to leave, the waiter accosted them, well, that should be the right one, and said, "Look, unfortunately, the men who initially promised to pick up their tabs have reneged, obviously because the ladies did not come over to their table to say thanks or to sit with them or something like that." And then this lady, burst out laughing. You had that hearty laughter that she gave there, saying what that people who volunteered to help, or no, I mean not help. Help is the wrong word, because they were not in need of help. It is not the case that they needed help to pay for their meal. People who volunteered their kindness, just to pick up their bills, then reneged on it and decided not to do it again because the ladies did not come over to their table either to acknowledge their kindness or to say thank you or some other thing. Maybe they wanted much more, from the ladies. And I said earlier on, this is a light-hearted story, but it is one that should make us reflect really on deeper truths as people on the Lord's side. You find that most times in the world, people who when people do acts of kindness, not from a regenerated heart, just because they want to do acts of kindness, you find that there are always strings attached, right? There are always strings attached to it, and that is why people always mention that it is one thing to be kind, and there are so many people who appear to be kind, and I'm choosing my words carefully. Many people who are not Christians, but who appear to be kind. That's why you talk about some philanthropists and generous people, and some people say, look at this person. He's not even a Christian. Maybe it's not even somebody who is godly, who worships God, but you know what? He does acts of kindness. He's generous. He gives gifts. He's good here and there, giving gifts, being generous. And people say, well, some people persuade themselves to say, look, if somebody can be this generous, if someone can be this philanthropic, he does not even need to know God. He does not even need to know Christ. He should be admitted into heaven because he's a kind person. And I'm trying to make the point that there is that kindness that comes from expecting something in return. There's that kindness that comes from expecting an acknowledgement, expecting a thank you. And then there is that kindness, which is the true Christian kindness, the kindness that comes from doing things only for the glory of God. For the glory of God. When a Christian does something, he does it as unto the Lord. And that is why I always say to people that there is much more to doing things in the name of the Lord. When we say something has been done in the name of the Lord, for Christ's sake, in the name of Christ, when we say that, right, there is a deeper meaning to it. If you do something for someone and say, look, I do it in the name of the Lord, it means you are doing it not because you want anything in return. It means you are doing it without any strings attached. You are just doing it for Christ's sake. And, for Christ's sake is something that people say nowadays, and when they say it, sometimes they say it as a swear word, swear expression. Oh, for Christ's sake. But for Christ's sake means I'm doing this just for Christ, just before Christ requires me to do it. Before Christ requires me to do it, because it's to the glory of, I'm doing it to the glory of God. I'm not doing it for personal aggrandizement. You find that in the world, kindness is often done by people who do not know the Lord for ulterior reasons, reasons that are not sometimes reasons that are not immediately known to people. Granted, there are some people who are generous and you may not be able to find any ulterior motives or reason for what they do. But you know what? The difference between us and God is that God actually knows the heart. He actually knows the reason why A is generous. He knows the reason why B is generous. He knows the reason. He knows the actual reason. He knows the actual motivation. And that is why for us on the Lord's side, we need to constantly examine ourselves. We need to constantly invite God to examine our heart, because as many people have pointed out, we are not even capable of conducting that examination. You cannot be a judge in your own cause. You cannot sit back and examine your heart and evaluate your heart and examine yourself and mark the script. You have to call God to do it, as the psalmist did in Psalm 139. Search me, O God, and know my heart. We need to constantly ask God to examine us, so that the things we do, we are doing from noble, pure, and godly motivation. So I really find this account. I find it humorous. I find it intriguing, and I find it quite revealing of human character. Of course, if you are not naive, you must know what those men were hoping for. They were hoping that the ladies will come over to their table, and hoping that maybe from there one thing will lead to another. They wanted to impress them with their own with how rich they were, that they were able to pick up their tabs and maybe hoping for something will come after. But can you imagine when the ladies did not go over to their table, then they reneged on their promise. They look, we're not going to pick up on their tab again. They better pay for themselves if they are this ungrateful. If they are this ungrateful, which will remind us of what the Bible tells us from Proverbs 10:22. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it. In other translations, it says, the blessing of the Lord makes a person rich and adds no sorrow to it. And now, this is a light-hearted story, but it is one that can remind us, and should rightly remind us, who on the Lord's side, that if you look for blessings from God, from the world, if you look for blessings from the world, or if you look for blessings from the devil, there are always strings attached to it, sorrows, and those strings will lead to sorrow. Indeed, you have to contrast that with the Lord God Almighty. Even on the wicked, even on the evil, even on the ungodly, He does what? He sends His rain and His sunshine, even on those who are ungodly, even on those who are in open rebellion, to Him. But on His chosen ones, He gives gifts, and those gifts are without repentance. So 2 ways for us to engage with this. It's a reminder to us that we should not seek help from the world, from Egypt, and definitely not from Satan. The Bible says, woe to them who seek help from Egypt. Why? Why woe to them? Because Egypt here will be metaphorical for the devil and for the world, because Egypt will have strings attached to it, and those strings will lead to sorrow. The second one is for us to also examine our motivations for the acts of charity that we do. Motivation for the act of charity that we do. When you give, when you help, are you expecting something in return? Or are you just doing it for Christ's sake? Are you just doing it for the glory of God? So much so, even if the person fails to acknowledge you, you just say to yourself, I've done it for God and for His glory alone. And I pray that the Lord will help us so that we can become that careful that we examine even our thoughts, we examine our motivations, and beyond that, that we invite God to conduct that examination. I think the psalmist got it exactly right in Psalm 139 when he concluded his reflections and prayers in that psalm by asking God to examine his own heart. And I pray that the Lord will help us, so much so that when we appear before Him in glory, we'll say, wow, you saw me in need, you saw my brother and sisters in need, you did act of kindness without expecting anything in return. That is the kind of charity that gets the blessings of God. But the people who want something in return, who would take back the act of kindness because they did not get those things, well, that is not anything done for the glory of God. That's not anything that will attract the blessings of God. Okay, I also came across this story that is quite telling, I would say. Again, by now you must know about the Epstein files, or the emails and communication of the disgraced the disgraced socialite billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, who, according to official report, committed suicide in prison, who has now been proven to be a pedophile, who has now been proven to be someone who facilitated the abuse, the sexual abuse of minors, the sexual abuse of girls and ladies who were trafficked, disgraced before he took his own life, and whose communication and files have now exposed so many other people in the world, including former Prince Andrew, including former UK ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, who we understand was arrested yesterday. Former Prince Andrew himself was arrested last week. And this continues to have reverberations in many parts of the world. However, someone identified one of the males in the Jeffrey Epstein files, which should catch our attention as we put on the Lord's side. You know, the way this thing works is that the Department of Justice in the U.S. Haven't released millions of pages of files from Jeffrey Epstein archive. The Department of Justice has released millions of files. So people are just scouring through the files, and as they discover one thing, it gets into public consciousness. Many things have been discovered that are not out there in the media space, because there are just so many things to discover. But the things that have found their way to the public space are those things that relate to popular persons, people who can be embarrassed by them, people who, if those files were released, it will become news. These are the things that will be relevant to people in the media space. But somebody noted one of the emails from a particular person to Jeffrey Epstein that should be of interest to you and to me as people on the Lord's side. This person, Ramsey L. Coley, I do not know who he was or who he is. I'm going to try and find out, but he wrote a mail to Jeffrey Epstein. Let me see if we can know who this person. Okay, we understand Ramsey L. Coley is an American musician, producer, and anthropologist based in New York City, best known as the founder of electronic music collective Monotronic. Okay, so we know that this guy is an American musician, producer, and anthropologist. Anyway, one of the files from the Epstein file shows that on January 12, 2010, at about 6:57 p.m., he wrote a mail to Jeffrey Epstein, and the mail is so disjointed. You have to try and piece. Some people write in such a disjointed manner. So he wrote saying, "Hi Jeffrey, sorry for the late response. I've been thinking. I have a few new girls, 2 girls with one management, but both are young, so that won't work. Another girl I have recently plays with IMG, who just flew to Paris. She's 19, but a hardcore Christian, so I don't think that will work, which is a shame. She's 5'11", that's a height, blonde Barbie doll. The only girls I can think of who I recently played with MC2. Now, this is somebody talking about some management, and you see, I don't want to digress, but you understand why. You understand the kind of business that some people engage in. There are people who engage in the business of supplying underage girls or trafficked girls to people who want to prey PREY on them, sexually. But the point I want to make is this. This Ramsey Eckley was writing to Jeffrey Epstein in 2010 saying, "Oh, I'm sorry I'm responding to you late, but I have a few new girls to, obviously to pass on to Jeffrey Epstein, and perhaps for Jeffrey Epstein to pass on to the high and mighty men who were patronizing him." But he said, this person who wrote the email said, "But both are young, so that won't work." He said, "Another girl I have is 19, but a hardcore Christian, so I don't think that will work." And the gentleman who posted this on Twitter underlined those words, "but a hardcore Christian, so I don't think that will work." And this person who posted it, he wrote saying, "Go hard on your faith walk. Let them know you are a hardcore Christian and that their perversion will not work with you. Be public about your faith walk." And I think this is just the right takeaway from this email. Now we do not know who this girl was. She was 19 in 2010 when this gentleman, should I even call him a gentleman now, when this person, Ramsey Holy, wrote about her. He wrote about her to Jeffrey Epstein saying, "Oh, I have another girl who is now placed with another management. Maybe they were just being models. Maybe they just being they thought they were being placed with the management for some noble thing, or for some official purposes, maybe for work purposes." But the person writing the email acknowledged that this particular girl, 19, said she's a hardcore Christian, so I don't think that will work. And this gentleman who posted this tweet, who posted the email, wrote to you and to me saying, "Go hard on your faith. Let people know who you are, and they will let people know you are a hardcore Christian, and certain things won't work with you." I think this is one of the greatest testimonies that can be one of the greatest testimonies that can be said about a Christian by a third party. But it's a third party writing to another person and saying, "Oh, about that there's a girl we know who has now been registered with the management, obviously maybe registered to do some maybe secretarial work, maybe some work as an actress or something." But this person would say, "No, but she's a hardcore Christian, so it will not work." So what are the kind of things that will not work with the hardcore Christian? Obviously, the answer is floating in the air. The kind of things that Jeffrey Epstein would want to do with girls, this person wrote to Jeffrey Epstein saying, "Oh, this person is a hardcore Christian. It will not work with her." And we all must celebrate this lady, this anonymous lady who was 19 in 2010, who was known to all and sundry as a hardcore Christian, so much so that the person who was contracted to supply girls for sexual purposes to Jeffrey Epstein himself acknowledged that it will not work. This girl is a hardcore Christian. Idiomatically, people say, "Nail your colors to the mast." Whenever you get to any place, nail your colors to the mast, and that's an expression, from maritime voyages. When a ship is traveling on the open waters, it is best for that ship to be properly identified so that people from afar would know, "Oh, this is a Russian ship, this is a Nigerian ship, this is a US ship, this is a British ship." Let people know who you are. Nail your colors to the mast. Are you a ship registered in Nigeria? Nail the Nigerian colors to the mast. Let people know. Are you a member of the Lord's side? Nail your colors to the mast. And many people have said that it's even a spiritual discipline for you to nail your colors to the mast. Whenever you get to a new place, nail your colors to the mast. Let people know, I'm for the Lord. I'm a hardcore Christian. And then from the get-go, people will not even come to you with some atrocious propositions. People will not even approach you for some horrible things. They will say about you, like this man, Ramsey Holy, wrote about this girl. They will say, "Oh, he's a hardcore Christian, so it's not going to work. She's a hardcore Christian, so it's not going to work." And it is such a relief to find that in the Jeffrey Epstein files, we are being told that some of the girls who would have been trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein, some of the girls who would have gladly, satisfied their sexual depravity, some of them were Christians known not to do things like that. And how will it be said about you and me, about the places where we walk, the places where we go? Is it the case that people will say, "Oh, with that sister, it's not going to work because she's a hardcore Christian"? Remember that when we're engaging with the story of that Russian man who visited Ghana and Uganda and so easily got some women on the streets to go with him to his hotel room and to do some sexual acts. That we engage also with the story of one lady who did not give in, who did not go with him, And when he said to her, look, why don't you want to come to my hotel? Is it because are you married? She said, no, I'm not married. I said, I'm not married, but no. And she kept saying no. And I'm saying that, and I did say then, I did that while we do not know the reason why she said no, maybe from Christian impulses or from some other impulses, the fact that she said no is proof that no one of those who said yes had any credible excuse. At least somebody said no. It is always possible to say no. It is never. Sometimes it's not easy to say no. I know that. I acknowledge that. Sometimes it's not easy to say no, but it's always possible to say no. It's always an option. And no to sin is always an option. It may be difficult to say, but it's always an option, and that's an important thing for us to know. And that is why before God, nobody will have an excuse to say, "Look, it was difficult for me to say no," because there will be people who said no. And even on the day of judgment, the Lord will be able to point to many others who said no. Oh, you are telling me that while you were there, you could not say no? Well, I'll point to you, many others who said no to the same thing. And I think the case of this 19-year-old girl who was identified as a hardcore Christian, who would not participate in the sinful depravities of Jeffrey Epstein and his friends, our case must be one that we should celebrate. The man wrote to Jeffrey Epstein, she's 19 but a hardcore Christian. So I don't think that will work. And I pray that the Lord will impress on our children, our sons and our daughters, the truth that they also can stand up and say no. Somebody wrote to me recently, challenged me about a recent appointment, and wrote to me the hymn, dare to be a Daniel, dare to stand alone, dare to have a purpose true, dare to make it known. And that hymn has been one that I've known for a long time, has been a great challenge to me. It's one of the hymns I gave to my daughter. I said, for life, you want to dare to be a Daniel. And that person sent it to me as well. And I said to my wife, well, this is the clarion call. Dare to be a Daniel, dare to stand alone, dare to have a purpose firm, dare to make it known. Sometimes we dare to be a Daniel. That is, you dare in your heart, you purpose in your heart. I'm not going to define myself with the king's delicacies. That is daring to be a Daniel. But then the next one says, dare to stand alone. This is where it becomes a bit more challenging, where you are the only one who has purposed in his heart not to defile yourself. If you have many others around you, it's easier, right? It's easier because you're not the only one. I can say, oh, brother this, sister this, brother this. Remember what we have resolved to do. But what if you find yourself alone? It becomes more difficult, but not impossible. By the power of God, it can be done. And then the third one says, dare to have a purpose firm. You have to have an objective, and you have to be firm about it. That also it's not as difficult as standing alone. But then the last one is the difficult part, dare to make it known. Sometimes you have your resolutions within you. Sometimes you have within you the things you have promised God to do or not to do. But then to make it known, to nail your colors to the mast, that is where the challenge really is. That 19-year-old girl of whom the music executive wrote to Jeffrey Epstein obviously was somebody who dared to make known her faith. She was known for it. It is one thing to have the faith and the convictions and to make the right resolutions. Another thing to make it known to all and sundry. And I do pray that in your own sphere of influence, you will be known as that 19-year-old girl was known, a hardcore Christian with whom horrible and sinful schemes will not work. Oh, for the generation of that 19-year-old girl to increase. We pray that that generation will increase, that many of our girls and boys and ourselves as well, we are going to be like her, and it will be said of us, oh, he's a hardcore Christian, oh, she's a hardcore Christian, and this is not going to work. This is not going to work with her. If more Christians were like that, if more Christians were known like that, well, we would have a more decent society. If more of us were known to be like that, our society would indeed become more godly. Okay, and finally today I want to give you the story of this lady who has been quoted as saying, "I promise never to go near marriage ever again." Woman writes as she reveals injuries she sustained while married. And there's a picture here showing the neck of this woman, obviously bearing wounds inflicted by somebody else. She said that the wounds were inflicted by her husband. According to this blogger, quote, "A woman who ended her marriage has vowed never to marry again. The woman took to Facebook to share injuries she sustained as a result of being married. She did not state who inflicted the injury on her. In the caption she wrote, quote, 'Dear marriage, I attempted you. You tempted me to silence my life. I promise never to go near you ever again. And I promise to keep a memory you left in me forever.'" And then she had the point. She wrote saying, "Marriage is not for everybody. Lesson, I should have remained single." And that's what this lady wrote on Facebook. Many people have been reacting to that. She said, "Dear marriage, I attempted you. You tempted me to silence my life. I promise never to go near you again. And I promise to keep a memory you left in me forever. Marriage is not for everybody. Lesson, I should have remained single." And she posted pictures showing injuries inflicted on her body. She did not expressly say that the injuries were inflicted by her husband in a marriage, but I think you can draw the conclusion. If the injuries were not inflicted by her husband while married, then that must be an attempt by her to lie. But from what she has written, she was implying, to accompany those pictures, she was implying that her husband inflicted those injuries on her while they were married. And then she said, "Look, marriage is not for everybody. I should have remained single." And the point I want to make here is that sometimes we observe or experience horrible things and then we reach the wrong conclusions. And in this case, even logically speaking, when we're not even thinking from Christian spiritual, even logically speaking, this would be a fallacy. If the argument of this lady were to be judged by logical rules, by rules of argument, this would be a fallacy because in reality, abuses occur even outside of a marriage context of a marriage. We have abuses occurring even in relationships. We have abuses occurring even in other situations where people abuse other people. So the problem is not marriage. That's the point I want to make. The problem is not marriage as an institution. The problem is what is the person who inflicted the injury on her. Now, this is not to make light of domestic abuse in marriage relationships. There are a plethora of cases showing that abuses occur in marriages, and this is something that we should decry, that we should condemn in the strongest possible terms. It is not acceptable in any way for one to raise one's hand against one's spouse, whether one is the woman or the man. It is not acceptable. It is sinful indeed. It is wrong. It is also criminal. It is illegal under the laws of many countries. But you see, the person responsible, it is not the institution of marriage that is responsible. It is the person who actually inflicted that injury. And that's what I want to make it. Sometimes people observe this and say, "Oh, marriage is not for everyone," or "I should have remained single." No, you should have married the right person. You should not. The point is, the lesson should not be, "I should have remained single." No, the lesson should be, "I should not have married that monster." And it is important for us to point out these things, these fallacies, these illogical arguments, illogical deductions, because sometimes the society just wants to celebrate anything that detracts from the beauty of an institution set up by God. And we who are called to walk circumspectly, we who are called to be wise as serpents, must recognize these things. The society will look at something wrong and say, "Oh, the fault is marriage. The fault is this or that," and that this or that will be something that is ordained by God. And so when somebody says, "Oh, the fault is the marriage institution, I should not have married," or I should not have done this, I should not have done that, I should not have gotten married, I should have remained single. That is not the point. The point is, you should not have married that monster who inflicted the injuries on you. It is the person, it is not the institution. And I think that's the overarching point. And for us on the Lord's side, when we come across people pointing, accusing fingers at the church, for example, there are so many to say, look, oh, we had that Christian or that pastor misappropriated church funds. You see, they say that's why I don't go to church. They say that is why church is a scam. Or you heard, they say, oh, that priest abused some women or some underage persons, so that's why I don't trust pastors. That's why I don't go to church. Like this lady too saying, look at my neck. The injury inflicted on me by my husband. Listen, I should have remained single. You are drawing the wrong conclusions. And sometimes some people do this just to aid the lies that Satan wants to perpetuate against the church and against institutions that are otherwise honorable, institutions that are ordained by God. It is the person, it is not the institution. When a husband abuses a woman, either sexually or physically or emotionally, it is wrong, it is illegal, in most cases, it is ungodly, but the problem is not the institution, it is the person. And this is something that distinguishes Christian thinkers, from secular philosophers and sociologists. Many people tend to think in terms of institution. Oh, the institution is strong. The Bible does not think in terms of institutions, in terms of nations, in terms of groups, but in terms of the individuals. First and foremost, the Christian way of thinking is not to say, this country or this group or this church. No, the individuals. The individuals. If everyone knew Jesus, if everyone would acknowledge the Lordship of Jesus, then institutions will change, nations will change, churches will change. And that's why we always make the point on this program. When you hear that, okay, this institution will be in charge of this, don't worry, this institution, the courts will review this, don't worry, the National Assembly will do this, don't worry, the civil service will ensure that this. We always say, look, institutions are as good only as the people who are in charge of those institutions, human beings running those institutions. And when the human beings are not regenerated, when they're not on the Lord's side, you're not going to reap any benefit from that institution. So let's talk about the institution of marriage as well, which this woman said, look, I'm not ever going to embrace again. The institution of marriage established by God will only bring forth the blessings ordained by God if the parties in that institution are godly. And that is why we Christians pay attention to individuals, not to institutions. It is not only logically wrong to draw the kind of conclusion that this lady drew by saying, hey, I'm not going to go into marriage again, I should have remained single, because by implication of what she has said and posted, her husband abused her. That would be wrong. What should have been done would be for what? What should have been done would be for her to say, I married the wrong person. I married an ungodly person. I married somebody who did not give himself to God. And that is very important for us to understand. And I pray that the society and the culture will not manipulate us into regarding as evil institutions and establishments that God wants us to venerate and wants us to continue to honor. The culture wants us to dishonor these institutions, the church, the clergy, the marriage institutions. The culture wants us to begin to think less of them, to begin to denigrate them, whereas we should be focused on the individuals who are doing wrong things while being members of this institution. I do pray that the Lord will give us grace to understand the times and season, and of course, we must emphasize that violence and abuse, whether physical, emotional, or otherwise, is wrong, is ungodly, and should be condemned in the strongest terms. But it should not lead to the denigration of institutions ordained by God, institutions that are of benefit to the society, institutions that has the ability to bless society. And we should understand that our institutions, our churches, our nations will only be as good, will only be as effective, will only be as God glorifying as the people who run them. And that is why our duty is to go out and make disciples, not of countries, not of nations, not of churches, but of men and women, one-on-one. We have to speak one-on-one. Gain this heart for God, gain this man for God, gain this woman for God, and then you will gain the society for the Lord. I want to thank you very much for staying with us this morning on GospelBellsRadio for On the Lord's Side, Christian Perspectives on News and Current Events. I will be with you again tomorrow by the grace of God. Whatever you do today, please remain firmly on the Lord's side. God bless you. God bless you really good.
You are listening to GospelBellsRadio.com, the Christian internet radio with a mission to engage the culture with the mind of Christ. Keep listening and invite others too. God bless you.
Engaging the culture with the mind of Christ.
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 Engaging the culture with the mind of Christ.